Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Inside the Borough. It's a special edition. It is Shula Bowl week. Robbie Listella aboard with you alongside a special guest and two co-hosts, Kevin Fielder rejoining the pod and Mike Birdmain back as usual. Our special guest this week, kicking it off from the Paws Up podcast, writer for Lemon City Live as well, Jake Gibson. How's it going?
Well, hi, fellas. Thanks for having me on. No, it's getting super exciting here. Shout out for letting me borrow Robbie for our Pause Up preview that'll drop on Friday night. But no,
you could have him.
It's super excited from an FIU perspective. It was weird in 2023 when the FIU rivalry stopped for a year amid conference realignment and all that. But I'm happy the rivalry's back, and this will be my first time heading to Boca Raton to see the Shula Bowl in person from there. So super excited.
All that off year meant was one less loss for you guys, I guess. So that's cool.
Mike.
Well, nice. I mean, let's
historically speaking,
history is very much on FAU's side in this game over the last few years, especially. So
I've been to all of them. Fun fact.
Is that
Jake
right?
is bookmarking this podcast right now as we speak. He's secretly screen recording, and he's going to have us in 4K.
No, I've already bookmarked plenty of tweets. I've done a lot of prep in case things go right for FIU. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But I do want to see a very competitive game. Obviously, both teams reeling from some tough losses. FIU to Indiana and FAU to both Michigan State and Army. So I think this is a really important game for both teams. And for FIU's case, it might be one of the biggest games they've played in years because it defines the rest of the season for them. But anyway, yeah. So there's a lot of reasons to be excited.
Exactly. I feel like for FAU, it's a kind of almost a must-win game to keep the season on the rails a little bit. And for FIU, at least from the outside in, it seems like the vibe right now is really high around the program. And with I feel like that's Scott Carr doing his job, Pitbull in town.
Mm-hmm.
But would you say what's the vibe around the program right now? Is it high? Is it higher than what it's been in previous regimes?
Yeah, I think the hype surrounding FIU football has definitely this is definitely the most exciting season for head coach Mike McIntyre's tenure here with the Panthers because this is the roster and coaching staff that he's had the most control over what it looks like during his time here. And I know FIU's coming off back-to-back 4-8 seasons, and there's only really one way they can go up from here, and it's to make it to a bowl game. Something they have not done since 2019, but no, the fans are getting into it. The turnout from FIU student section against Central Michigan last week was stellar, to say the least, not to mention the overall excitement and engagement that FIU got on social media when they announced that the football stadium would be named after Pitbull. And obviously, when they drop those new Vice uniforms down the season, that's also going to get some traction online as well. That's just how it is. So, no, this season has definitely had more eyes around it on both a local and even a national scale for FIU. So, yeah, I'd say since Mike McIntyre got here, this is going to be the most anticipated season for FIU.
And that's, I think, Kevin mentioned Coach Mack, and I wanted to touch on that and go right into it.
Jake, earlier before the season started, I was talking with someone about FIU and Coach McIntyre, and largely in the sense that it felt as though this year needed to be different for FIU, and I didn't want to place expectations on it because I'm not as close to that program as I am FAU, but I had said I thought they needed to make a bowl game. I thought they need to win 6 games. For McIntyre to not be on the hot seat, is that still a fair assumption, or does he have a little bit more cushion than maybe I think he does?
I think he has a little bit more cushion than others just because of the fact that he was the first hire for Scott Carr, the AD, so he's giving him a lot of leeway to turn the system around. And again, when Mike McIntyre got the job, FIU had come off a 1-11 season the year prior, and then an 0-5 season during the COVID year in 2020. So to go from 1-11 to 4-8 in your first year is actually pretty good. To do it again in your second year is not as good, but still, there's a lot of room to be left for this team to really, like you said, compete and make it to that bowl game, which I think is what a lot of fans are now starting to expect. Like, that's the demand that he knows that he has to deal with from the FIU fan base, and Scott Carr as well. They all want to see FIU make a bowl game. if FIU does not, if they get 3 wins or less, I think there's some serious talk about Mike McIntyre's tenure with FIU. Same thing if they go 4-8 for a third straight season. I feel like a lot of people will not be happy with that. 5 wins is okay, but 6 is where you want to land. And I think that if FIU's offense and defense continues to peak like they did against Central Michigan, not to mention you have a pretty favorable Conference USA schedule as well. You don't have to take on Western Kentucky. You're taking on a lot of, I hate to say it for the conference standpoint, but bad teams like New Mexico State and UTEP, not to mention the newcomers in Kennesaw State as well. I think things could definitely go FIU's way. And if they stay healthy, which is obviously the biggest thing, then yeah, they have I think they do have what it takes to make that bowl game.
They definitely have a favorable schedule in Conference USA, and that helps. And in a sense, like I feel like FAU is kind of in a similar boat, and I don't think in a way where Herman's job is at stake in any way at this point. It's his second year; he's still building, and everything that goes along with that. But our expectations are super high too. I think 6 wins is at a minimum, and we said this like a couple weeks ago on the same pod. Like if we don't win 6 games, something has to change, and with the recruiting, or maybe not the direction of the program, but like something like I just feel like we're missing that thing that you need to win. And I know it's really early in the season. Michigan State's tough for anybody pretty much, even though they're not like as good as they typically are, with the new quarterback and everything, but we showed up there better than we showed up against Army. And I'm kind of kicking myself in the butt because I really thought that last week we were gonna show up a little bit better than we did. I know we talked about it, Robbie, right? And I was like, we're gonna stand up. Defense is gonna be great. We're gonna be able to stop the run. We know it's coming. We have to be prepared for it. And you know what? They shit the bed, right? There's no other way to put it. We shit the bed last week. So I mean, this game right here is like, for me, the season. We lose to FIU, and I don't know if there's, from a fan standpoint, I don't know if, aside from like winning out, I don't know if there's a way out of that, right?
I think that's like sort of similar to both teams though. And
yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
like we're kind of in the same boat. We both need this win.
Obviously FIU's coming off the big win against Central Michigan.
Yeah.
And
well, we beat them in 2008,
Yeah, also. And also we could be blunt. Central Michigan's not a very good football team this year. They're going to have some changes in the offseason, but FIU can't get embarrassed again. They cannot go into FAU and lose 52-3 again, or whatever it was 2-3 years ago when they played. Like, it just can't happen again. Like, to some degree, FIU needs to show that they're a more improved football team, and whether that's beating FAU or just making it more competitive. And FAU needs to prove that those first 2 weeks were not a sign of things to come, and that they were just bad games. So I think that's what makes this game incredibly interesting. Is we're looking at 2 teams that need to win this game. Maybe not necessarily to save jobs, but to some degree save seasons.
Save seasons, save fan base, save everything that goes along with the program. Like it was not fun, and the attitudes were not great following the Army loss. Even the whole second half. I mean, they came out and put 14 points up very quickly, right before we knew what was going on. The O-line just looked lost. Defense looked lost against Army. It was kind of discouraging, to be honest. So yeah, this game right here, super important for both teams. I think, obviously, we're gonna win.
That start to that game, it was just another slow start. We'll get into the breakdown of that when Jake doesn't have to hear us going too in depth in it, because Jake was watching the FIU offense kind of break out versus Central Michigan after Indiana kind of stymied them a little bit, but the Indiana defense is going to be solid. And so that is kind of like the Michigan State for FAU. You don't want to put too much value into that. But I feel like, Jenkins in year 2, what he's capable of with the run game, what was shown in that Central Michigan game, although Central Michigan, like Kevin said, struggles a little bit. But what have you liked so far from the offense and Jenkins in year 2?
Well, the two things that really stood out in that performance against Central Michigan were FIU's offense for the majority of the game had excellent field position off of Central Michigan's 6 turnovers. Labus threw 5 picks in that game. I mean, that's unreal. The last time FIU got 5 picks in a single game was in 2005, ironically, against FAU. But the big takeaway from that game was FIU's offensive line really stepped it up compared to their performance against Indiana. They only gave up 1 sack on the day. Jenkins had more than enough time in the pocket to look down the field and make some connections deep to both Eric Rivers and Dean Patterson, and just pretty much controlled the offense that way. They also created holes that Lawrence and Owens could run through. Even Lexington Joseph got his first touchdown since 2022 because he, of course, sat out all of last season with an injury. So the offensive line spearheaded Jenkins's success, and their running game I thought was reliable, and their passing game was a step up from Indiana as well. They ran a very conservative system against Indiana with quick checkdowns and slants. They didn't really go deep, barely at all in that game. Against Central Michigan, they did, and most of the time they connected. So from week 1 to week 2, the offense looks almost completely different, and I really like the system they ran against Central Michigan. I want to see it more and more and more.
Who's kind of stepped up as the playmaker? Is it Patterson as a veteran, or is it Menemin at tight end? Who's been the guy so far for Jenkins?
You know, that's kind of tough to say. FIU, it's again, we're only 2 games into the season, but there has not really been a breakout receiver or running back to that end. In that game against Central Michigan, everybody contributed receiving wise. I mean, the leading receiver was tight end, like you said, tight end Josiah Meeman, but Rivers, Patterson, and Nazaviah Burris all got pretty equal statistics, and they all got pretty equal chances. I mean, I would still say that Dean Patterson is overall the best receiver now for Keywan Jenkins. He's got the arms, he's got the speed, and he's even a talented punt returner. But I am interested to see more how they use Desna Washington as the season goes on, because he's got the height and he's got the hands to go to be a threat deep. Meeman is going to have to take more and more snaps at tight end because we have lost our tight end Rocky Beers for a few weeks due to an injury he suffered in week 1. So going to see more of Meeman for a while. And aside from that, I mean, rushing wise, Owens and Lawrence have been great so far this season. They didn't really use Lexington Joseph that much in week 1. They saw more of him in week 2, and I hope we get to see more of him as the season progresses. So if I had to name a few players to keep an eye out for, it would be Patterson and Meeman receiving wise, and then Owens and Lawrence rushing wise, but maybe you could see Joseph pop in there for a snap or 2.
I am, just from a name perspective, I am hoping Rocky Beers gets better very, very soon. You never want to see anyone get injured, but especially Rocky.
He's an awesome guy. We had him on our show not that long ago. His brother actually, Rowdy Beers, dropped out of football to pursue becoming a firefighter, which I think is super cool. Kudos to him. But no, Rocky's a great playmaker. And it's funny because last season, the tight ends did not score a single touchdown all of last season until the season finale against Western Kentucky, and it was Rocky who got that touchdown. The first touchdown scored by FIU this season against Indiana was also from Rocky. So it's something, I guess, a fun tidbit to note. But yeah, Rocky's a great player. Meeman's also good too. So he's just going to take more snaps as a result of the injury.
Jake, I want to follow up on that, especially with the receiver room, because last year they had Chris Mitchell, who's now at Notre Dame and losing on last-second field goals to Northern Illinois. But regardless, I think that like this has been a trend for FIU where they develop one really good pass catcher. It was Tyrese Chambers a few years ago. It was Fairweather, the tight end who's now at Auburn, and it was Mitchell last year. Have they replaced Mitchell? Because I feel like that's sort of the biggest question mark, right? Is you've got this offense, you've got playmakers, but do you have a deep threat like Mitchell? Because that's what he terrorized Conference USA defenses with, and I don't know if they've got it. I mean, the film I've watched, I haven't seen someone who's that lethal deep threat that pushes teams vertically like Mitchell did, and to some lower degree Chambers did years ago.
FIU is low-key kind of a wide receiver university to that extent. I mean, probably the greatest alumni to come from the football squad is T.Y. Hilton, who went on to have a pretty great NFL career. But to answer the question about if they found a replacement for Chris Mitchell, I would say not immediately. Again, time will have to tell to see who will take up that mantle, even if they decide to go try to figure out who will be their wide receiver one. Because like I said, in the system they played against Central Michigan, no receiver had more snaps than the other by a significant amount. And I think I'm okay with that as long as they're distributing the ball around. And probably the biggest takeaway from that game against Central Michigan offensive-wise, aside from the O-line and the great field position, no turnovers as well. No interceptions, no fumbles. So as long as the receivers are catching passes equally, I think that's a good system they can rely on. I would still say that as far as returners go, Dean Patterson could be the guy that could replace Chris Mitchell in the long run. They did bring in some new players, like I had mentioned. Nazaviah Burris from Stetson is a very solid pickup, and Desna Washington from, I believe, Nevada is also a very good player stat-wise and build-wise. So it's tough to answer that question immediately. Time is going to have to tell, especially when we get to conference play, when they take on Louisiana Tech in a couple of weeks. Then we'll really get an idea. I mean, we could get an idea in this game against FAU as well.
FAU's looking for the same thing. No receivers really jumped out. Omari Hayes a little bit, but we talked about that on the Paws Up podcast as well. So we'll see if anyone shines in this game. But on the defensive side of things, pass defense looks like it's been locked down on the outside. Ed Blades, I believe I posted, he was the highest graded corner per PFF. So that's pretty good on its own. And then But the one thing I've noticed is even against CMU, they were able to, gave up a decent amount on the ground. So is the pass defense probably the biggest strength of the defense overall? And is run defense a bit of a weakness, or is this just those two bad games, you'd say?
It feels almost weird to not say that the pass defense is the star of the show right now, considering, they just got 5 picks in a game against Central Michigan. But FIU's defense was in a weird situation even heading into this game against Central Michigan, because it was announced a few days prior that Reggie Peterson would be leaving the program to retire from the game of football. And before the season, I had said that I think Reggie Peterson was the best all-around talent that FIU football had. He was an outstanding linebacker last season. He took mentorship from Donovan Manuel, who has since signed with the Houston Roughnecks of the UFL. And I thought Reggie was due for a breakout season. He did not look good against Indiana, and then he retired out of the blue. So I thought the defense would take a massive hit, but it felt like in all phases of the game they got a little bit better for what we saw against Indiana. I mean, Javon Dewitt had to scramble to find a replacement for Reggie, and I think overall the combination of Elijah Anderson-Taylor, Travion Barnes, and Dwight Nunu at the linebacker room was great. And then, FIU's got some dogs at secondary. I mean, CJ Christian, JoJo Evans, Jamal Potts, Brian Blades, like you had mentioned, Hezekiah Messas, they're all great players, and they all got a lot of action against Central Michigan. I believe it was Evans, Potts, Percy Courtney Jr., which was cool to see, Brian Blades, and Antonio Patterson, who all came away with interceptions in that game against the Chips. Now, rushing defense, it has not been great through the first couple of games this season. I would say that's something of a weak point for this FIU squad at the moment. I mean, they do have some great talent at defensive line, including Jeremy Passmore, who I think will have a great season as it progresses. So that will be the one aspect of the defense I would like to see improve more than anything. I mean, the secondary was damn near perfect against Central Michigan, so I don't really have a lot I can say about that at the moment. But I think the focus is on how well the rushing defense can adjust to this FAU squad.
This matchup keeps getting more interesting because FAU comes into this game needing to establish the run. And so they're facing off with a defense on paper that, they would like to get it going against, but at the same time, it's a chance for FIU to face off against a run game that hasn't been too great and put up a good performance themselves. So definitely going to be something to watch for. But overall, what would you say FIU needs to capitalize on most to win this game, and kind of what can't they do if they're not going to give it up to FAU on their home field?
I mean, it's hard not to look at FAU's rush defense against Army and not see that, oh man, if Owens and Lawrence could do half as good a job as Army did running the ball, then this could be a great day for FIU. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how well they do against the rush defense. But again, I'm also interested to see how they continue the play calling on offense. I mean, like I said, they ran a great system against Central Michigan, but on the road against Indiana, it was pretty conservative. So I want to see a confident Keywan Jenkins pass the ball all downfield and continue with those deep threats that actually worked against Central Michigan. And I know it's going to be on the road, and I'm expecting a good turnout from FAU fans, as well as some decent amount of FIU fans. But obviously, FAU has been prioritizing how important this game is, and they're wanting Owls to go to the stands. So just their ability to perform on the road. They didn't do well against Bloomington, but the fact that it's only an hour away from FIU to FAU, and they're going to have maybe a decent amount of Panther fans travel with them. I'm interested to see how confident the offense will be.
Jake, so where is the Paws Up podcast going to be posting their coverage of the game itself?
So Robbie, you should know this. We already recorded our Paws Up preview back on Tuesday, and that'll drop on Friday night at 8 o'clock. It should be fun. Kevin and I are excited about it, and of course, we brought in Robbie to talk about FAU for about 20 minutes or so. We're going to get to Boca Raton as early as we can. Maybe snap some photos here and there, but yeah, we're going to be in the press box alongside you guys, and it's going to be a super fun time. We usually record halftime reports and post-game shows at Pitbull Stadium. I don't know where we could possibly do that. I've never been to the FAU football stadium, but we're excited to. This is going to be our first road coverage for the football season ever. We've gone on the road a couple of times to the University of Miami for baseball and basketball, but yeah, never for football. So this is going to be new for us.
It's a really nice stadium. I think you're going to enjoy it. And
I've seen
plenty of great places to do your pod from for sure.
Yep. Yeah, you will deeply enjoy having a press box. Oh wait, did I say that out loud?
Yeah. No. I understand. When I worked for Panther Now, it's the FIU student newspaper. I remember having to sit outside in the tents, outside the FIU press box. But hey, we get Jersey mics now. I mean that ain't bad.
We played at Lockhart too, and the press box used to be a tent on top of the metal bleacher. It was in the sun. Yeah, it was terrible. So yeah, we're fortunate now. I think we have to can't take that for granted. So enjoy the view of the ocean from up there. Enjoy the game.
I mean, if FIU wins, I might have to walk that, 1.8 miles to the beach and just take a quick soak.
It's not the worst walk in the world. Just go straight down 20th Street. Maybe and just keep on going. You got to move over to the right or the left a little bit to get
20th Street doesn't go through, but if you go to Spanish River, it goes right through. So,
there you go.
Noted.
There you go, Jake. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Where can the people find? Or your ats right there.
Yeah.
So follow Jake on Twitter at Jake the MC.
Yeah.
Jake, but thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Thank you, guys.
So we are back. Gonna focus
holding my
a little
tongue.
bit more of
tough to do, man. I really don't like FIU.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, for this half of the show, we'll focus on
you were largely
FAU a little bit more.
I was sending pictures. I don't know if you guys saw your text, but I think I nailed it.
Mike was texting us pictures, like AI created pictures of like a panther versus an owl, and so he was trying to play with it to get it look realistic.
No, I
wasn't. But Mike, Kevin, so I asked Jake, how's he doing? I didn't get to talk to you guys. Kevin, it's your first time on the Owls.
I gotta say, no, don't cut me off. I miss Kevin. You know what? I miss Kevin. Kevin and I used to get together and do this pod like all the time, and now he's back.
Unfortunately for some people would rather me not be on here. But
no, I'm happy to have you back, Kevin.
Much to the demise of the haters, I am back.
Kevin, so where have you been? What have you been up to? Let the FAU world know who doesn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've since moved to Manhattan, Kansas, where if you're wondering where Manhattan is, don't wonder. It is quite literally in the middle of nowhere. I now cover K-State full-time, still do the podcast on the side, watch FAU. Last 2 weeks, that's a little bit more unfortunate than some other years, but I feel like we'll get to that part later.
Yeah, we might as well get into it. So, I mean, you mentioned you watched those first two games. We talked about Army a little bit before, but overall, offense, defense. The offense struggles have been noted. Defense has been up and down, but overall, what's been the baseline thoughts on the Owls so far, Kevin?
I'm just going to be blunt right now. It's not good enough. If this is your best idea of what an FAU football team looks like in 2024, figure it out and change it, because the Michigan State loss is defensible. You go to the road, you go to Michigan State, you lose to a talented football team. There's talent on Michigan State.
By 6 points. Honestly, it wasn't.
By 6 points.
I was feeling good. I have to say, Kevin, I was feeling good after that loss. I was feeling good. I was feeling good.
It was a game where you had a chance to win the game late and you just didn't win it. Those things happen when you play Power 5 football, Power 4 football teams now on the road. You can't follow that up with the performance you did against Army. And I think everyone in that room knows that. Every fan knows that. You cannot follow up a 6-point loss to Michigan State with truly, and I was trying to think this through, one of the more embarrassing losses over the last few years. From every perspective of what this game could have meant for FAU, it being the first conference game, it being an opportunity for them to figure some stuff out and prove that first game was nothing more than just a rough start. They looked worse against Army than they did against Michigan State, I thought. And to be fair, FAU played a very sloppy game against Michigan State and had a chance to win the game. I think that if they played a dang near average game against Army, they probably win the game. But, I mean, it was top to bottom. Offense didn't execute. They didn't run the ball at all. They had nothing going through the air. Defensively against Army, they were getting killed on the option all game. It was the same 3 or 4 plays of they would take away the fullback dive on the triple option, and it would be Daly and the running back in open space. Easy pitch and catch all game. And I just feel like I need to reiterate it. That's not good enough. If that's your best performance, stuff has to change quickly.
Yeah. No, Noah Short had a career day on the outside. It just seemed like Contain got busted, and then the fake field goal, and then the one over the top, the pass, that was just not good either.
The pass, that one wide open.
That pass is what they do, though. I mean, that's just baseline Army of, okay, if you're going to put 11 guys in the box, watch this. We've got one pass play that we can run all game if you want to do that. And I think the fake field goal is the worst one. That one is truly just. Yeah,
that was sad.
That's like icing on the cake.
You guys are my stat gurus here. I don't really memorize them, but this one stood out to me. Is it true we had 93 yards over 2 games in rushing?
That sounds right.
It might sound like too much. I mean, but including Cam's, yeah, that probably sounds right.
Yeah, 93 yards in 2 games.
I'll check it real quick. That sounds right. I think most of that comes from Cam Fancher because.
Yeah. No, it does, and it does. It does. I think he's like half of that, at least, right? He's like half of that. So, what's the problem with what's the problem with our rushing? Is it that our O line, like we're not making blocks, or our running backs just not strong? Like what?
I don't think they're getting the push that they need to get up front, and that's inherently a problem when Michigan State's defensive line is talented. They've got some really talented players on that defensive line. And Army's defensive line, they've got 1 or 2 guys that I know people are excited about, but you're not getting push up front. And it's like Campbell, Mobley, even Fancher on the design to runs, they'll get the ball and they'll have 3 guys right in front of them. And you can sometimes make a guy miss. You can't make 2 or 3 guys miss consistently. And so it's like it's so difficult to build a competent offense in college football nowadays if you can't run the ball. There are very few teams that run effective air raids. And we're talking true like Mike Leach air raid where you run the ball 5-6 times a game. Very few teams run that effectively, and FAU's not built to play like that. They can't play like that. So they need to fix something on the ground, and it needs to happen now because I think time's running out to try and fix some of these things.
Yeah, what was surprising to me in week 2, the run game wasn't working with the running backs at all, but they wanted to protect Cam going into the week. That was noted after he took some dangerous hits against Michigan State, but he only rushes it 4 total times, and he only picks up 1 first down compared to 10 in week 1. So I'm just, there has to be a bit of a balance, where you protect him, but you also utilize him to kind of make plays with his legs. That's probably what was surprising to me and hurt them offensively in that one.
I think that the problem with the design to run stuff, they should probably find a balance. Cam Fancher also needs to slide a lot earlier because he's just going to keep getting hit if he tries to slide at the last second. There were a few calls in that game that the Michigan State game that probably could have been called targeting to not beat a dead
that
horse.
last one, fourth quarter,
the last
minute
one
and a half left. Yeah,
but most referees are not going to give you the benefit of the doubt if you are sliding at the very last second. That's just the reality of how we protect quarterbacks nowadays. I think the bigger issue is, and this is probably more of preference than it is reality, I think they need to move the pocket more. Like when you think of what Cam Fancher is really good at, it's his athleticism, it's him making plays out of structure, it's him being able to make plays when things break down. That's what you need to be using to your advantage right now. You can't be asking Cam Fancher to run the same offense that N'Kosi Perry was running 2 years ago because they're not the same quarterback. And so, like, I think that's the bigger issue in terms of like Cam Fancher's effectiveness is they're asking him to be a pocket passer at times when, I mean, that's just not who he is. That's not what that Marshall's offense was most successful when they were letting him be a little bit more freelancy in the back. And you need to sort of embrace that you're going to get some bad plays with Cam Fancher. You're also going to get a lot of good plays if you play to his strengths.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, it's also hurt, BJ Alexander and EJ Horton weren't going to be, the most game-changing guys, but they would have made plays on the outside for sure. They would have been in that wide receiver rotation, especially EJ, who played with him at Marshall, and then he gets hurt to start the season. So they haven't gotten somebody to step up as like a crazy, playmaker, go-to guy on third downs. He had a receiver, and that hasn't helped. He doesn't have, a LeJounte to look to when the pocket is collapsing on him, which it was less against Army. The offensive line improved a little bit overall, but still not in run blocking. So got to pick that up against FIU if they want to have a chance to win the Shula Bowl. But on the defensive side of things, the run game got obliterated against Army. They were able, as we mentioned, run for 400-something yards. But against Michigan State, besides that big run to Lynch Adams, which was just a blown tackle and he was gone, do you guys think that it was kind of an anomaly, or are we concerned that our linebackers and we replaced the front seven a little bit, but the front guys a little bit, but the linebackers are the same? So, are we concerned with the run tackling, or what's going on with the run defense a little bit?
I feel like I'm concerned with everything right now.
Yeah, I think that's a very.
And if you're not concerned with everything right now, I then please tell me what there's no concern with, because the whole thing is just it seems like a mess. And I love this team. I think you guys know that. I do.
Yeah, no. 100%.
Like Kevin said, something has to change, and I don't know if it's the play calling from upstairs, or it's the culture in the locker room or on the field, but something's got to change. And I really hope that we turn around this week, man. Like, I do, for the sake of the program and the fans, really too, the school as a whole, even. And I don't mean to switch the subject here, but the season in a way is on the line this week.
It is,
and I feel like there's only 2 games that matter now. This one and homecoming, the USF game, right?
It feels like you have to win both those games now.
I feel like those games, like we can't drop either one. Like if we drop either one, it's back to the drawing board. Almost.
I had felt that if they had picked up a win against Michigan State or started the year 2-0 and go beat FIU at home,
1-1, even 1-1,
it's like, you know what, you lose to Michigan State, you beat Army, you beat UConn next week. I think that's next week or 2 weeks from now. You beat FIU
and Wagner. Yeah, that's a great opening to the season. I
felt that if they were 4-1, 5-1, they could have probably afforded to lose the USF game. You wouldn't have wanted to. Like,
even
let's be clear.
3-2, even 3-2, Kevin, and we could still go 3-2.
You could still go 3-2, but like the mood has significantly shifted from the expectations wise. And Mike, you had mentioned it when Jake was on, of like, this team expects to make a bowl game and they expect to win 6 games, and now it feels like that's on the line. And I know we're 2 weeks into the season, and it feels like that, which is never a good sign. But it truly feels like this game right now, this week against FIU, is the most important game that FAU has played since probably Lane Kiffin's era at FAU, because this is a game where things have to change, and frankly, they probably have to change really quickly for FAU. Robbie, on the topic of defense, I will say I think the secondary has looked, outside of the pass against Army, the secondary has looked incredibly good through 2 games. That's been really, like, if you're looking for a beacon of positivity to shut, like if you're looking for a lighthouse right now, that's the lighthouse. I think the front 7, they just need to be more disciplined in their gaps. This is very coach speaky to be like, they just need to be more disciplined, but that's really what it is. When you're playing Army, and I think Robbie, Tom Herman had mentioned this during the week. I think he mentioned eyes probably 6 times in his first press conference. You need to have good eyes against Army to win that game, because they're going to run the same stuff all game and they're going to wait for you to make a mistake. That's what they do. That's how they've won games since the beginning of time. They aren't flashy. They are running the most 1950s offense of all time. The reason why it works is because they're all disciplined and they all know their roles. The Army game is the one game a year where you can't freelance anything. Everything has to be, you do this all game. If it's the most boring thing you do on defense, if your entire job is to just contain the edge for 60 plays or whatever they run, that's what you're going to do for 60 plays. And I thought that at times they got a couple guys trying to freelance things in space when you don't freelance things against Army. And maybe that's, I know a lot of coaches will say preparing for Army with a week's time is one of the toughest things that a team has to do, because you have to throw almost everything out and you have to start from fresh in terms of game planning. Defensively, I'm willing to give them, because I thought they looked really good against Michigan State, I'm willing to give them a very minor mulligan against Army. But if they come out and they don't show up against FIU and UConn next week, there's going to be tough conversations on this show and in those rooms, because you're looking down the barrel of a 1-3 start or an 0-4 start if things don't change quickly.
Yeah, no, I mean, this week FIU, next week UConn. UConn had a rough week 1, but they looked really good in week 2. They put up, I think it was almost 60 points. And so, UConn can put up points. And so that's not a game you want to go into with the defense with questions. But luckily for FIU, like you mentioned, the pass defense secondary has been good. CJ Hurd right now leading the nation in tackles for freshmen, which that's a positive, I guess.
He's been really good through 2 weeks. He has been incredible through 2 weeks, and they need to find a way to play him more.
Yeah, it seemed like he outpaced Phil Dunham after Phil gave up that interception, and CJ, it looked like he played the rest of the game. I don't know if it was just from where I was sitting, but he outpaced him in total snaps for sure. So that was a big game for him to kind of make plays. He led the team in tackles. We'll see him. Maybe we'll see him a little bit more in coverage this week. We'll see. But overall in this game, guys, what is most important for you guys offensively for FAU to come out and have their mojo? What's the most important thing? Is it the run game? Is it the protection? Is it Cam? What is it?
I think it's confidence, really. I think after losing the way we did to Michigan State and having a chance to win and kind of getting the rug pulled out from under us with that bad call, and that was I still feel like I watched it 100 times. I still feel like that was a targeting at the end of the game there, and we should have got that
was
call.
The most targeting call that they had all game, and I think they had
I really think we had more of a chance to win that game than they gave us. And we could have won that game, and we probably should have won that game because Michigan State didn't play that awesome. I think we played better than they did. And it was super dirty. But after this demoralizing loss to Army, I think it's confidence. And I think if they can get past it and they look, they like, okay, what's done is done. We got Army out of the way. We lost, unfortunately. We're not going to see an offense like that again. FIU, we have a chance to hit reset on this on our plan. Execute the plan. We have good coaches, right? Herman's a great coach. We've got great coaches. We just have to execute. And I think if they can do that, they keep the attitude and the morale high, and they have the confidence, I think they're going to be okay. And I know that's very cliche to say, but I think it's the truth. I do. I think the talent's there. I think they just have to be confident and execute the plan.
I think when you have a team that through 2 games, for the most part, have shot themselves in the foot, and it's repeatedly mistakes that are not caused by a defense. They're caused by yourself. I think it is very much confidence, right? It is very much, you just need to go out there and play better.
Just go do it. You know what to do. You know the plan, right?
Like I know, like speaking to a lot of football players in my time covering FAU and covering K-State now, it's like they're all going to tell you about the 24-hour rule, right? You have a bad game, you get 24 hours to sulk about it, and then it's on to the next opponent. That's really what they need this week. They need 24 hours of, you know what, we played like crap against Army. And then after that, it has to be full on focusing on what you can do to simplify the offense, to run an offense that can beat FIU, because it's almost crazy what a win can do to a fan base and what a win can do to a team. You could beat FIU by 20, 25 points, and I think a lot of people would forget what happened against Army and Michigan State, even if it was just temporary, because that's a big game for FAU fans. It's a big game for FAU. And to some degree, if you can't get up for this game, if you can't play your best football game against FIU, that's also a problem, because it should not take added motivation to beat FIU.
No,
you should want to, if you commit to FAU, if you play for FAU, and this is what other players have said in the past, this is the game you have scheduled on your schedule the minute it comes out.
Circled every year.
This is the team we need to beat. This is the game this is our Super Bowl. To some degree, this is the biggest game of the year for us. And so I think the biggest thing is confidence. And then I also think they need to find a way to get the run game going. And whether that's manufacturing touches, whether that's manufacturing things that get Campbell and Mobley the ball in space and allowing them to get going, you can't try and win a football game where your leading rusher has 20 yards. You're not going to win a lot of football games like that. You can win football games with 70 yards rushing, 60 yards rushing. You can't win it with 20. That's just, to be brutally honest, you're not going to win a lot of football games if you're getting beat up like that up front.
No, and for me, I want to see somebody establish themselves as Cam's, go-to guy. I mean, obviously not. Maybe it's Omari's been that guy kind of sort of through 2 games, but he doesn't play the most out of the receivers, and that may change. It may not. Who knows? But whoever Cam feels comfortable, I want to see him get him involved early in the game, in the pass game, whether it's screens, whatever, to just trying to get something going in the pass game. So when it gets to that 3rd and long, when the run game got stuffed, that you have some confidence that you're going to be able to complete that deep pass. So just something to get the offense going in terms of the pass as well. But the run is going to set everything up, and if they're able to get some push and do that, I think it'll open up the pass game as well. But we shall see. On the defensive side of the ball, the run defense just has to bounce back. I think they will. I think, Michigan State, it was an overall good performance. They really limited Nate Carter. K'Ron Lynch-Adams is a really good running back, gave up that one big run, a couple other 10 to 12-yard runs as well to him. But their power back got stuffed, and I feel like that's a little bit more of the type of running back you'll see against FIU. And I think hopefully the run defense bounces back in a solid way. But overall in this one, I think it's definitely going to be a battle. I think it'll be close. I don't know which way it'll go. It'll just kind of depend which way the offense comes out. Mike, any predictions from you, Mike? I know you're the faithful FAU, diehard through and through. What are you thinking about this game? Have you ever, Mike's been around the program for a very long time. Has there ever been a year where the Shula Bowl is in question as much as it is right now?
No. I mean, I don't know, man.
That's a tough.
It's usually not like the third game. It's usually not like the third game.
Yeah, I mean, by some point, you sort of know what both teams are, because the game's always played in like week 10. And
yeah, it's usually like a November game or like the last game of the year or something like that. This one's weird because it's the third game of the season and they're in a different conference now, right? So it's like it's a little different, but it's still important. It's still like that rivalry, right? The Shula Bowl trophy is on the line. Oh, man, this is the most important one. Out of all of them, this is the most important one. Herman's, it's the return of the Shula Bowl for one. Herman's first time playing against them. We're starting a season that we had higher expectations, 0-2 against at least one team we should have beaten. This is the one, man. This is the Shula. This is the most important one I've ever felt. I've been to all of them. I think I've gone to Miami quite a bit. Katie and I have traveled down there. We've been to everyone at our stadium. I've seen them play each other at Dolphin Stadium. Way back when. This is the most important one. What do I think is going to happen? I think we step up. I do, and I'm not just being a homer. I think Herman's a genius when it comes down to it. He's a national championship offensive coordinator. He knows what he's doing. He just needs these guys to have the confidence to execute the plan, and I really think we have the talent to do that. And I think we'll be surprised on Saturday.
Yeah, I right now I stray away from predictions. Because right now I haven't seen enough out of the offense to even know.
I'm smart. I stay away from predictions.
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry.
Can never be wrong if you don't predict anything. That's what I always say.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I haven't seen enough out of the offense to know what it looks like when it's functioning at its highest, level. But you're right. At some point, they have to get it together. And Tom Herman's not a loser. He's won consistently where he's been. So if they're going to get fired up, it's going to happen now. And so I do think FAU comes out and wins this game. Do I think it looks pretty? No. But do I think it gives them some hope going into UConn and the rest of the season? Yes. Could it not go that way? Maybe, possibly, but that would mean that the offense has some really deep struggles that I don't know what would mean for the future of it.
If they don't win this game, there is something very deep happening there.
Yeah, I agree that this game will be close to some degree. I don't think it'll be a one-score game. I think that FAU is incredibly talented, and the thing that's going to help them is they've got guys on this roster who played against FIU the last time these two teams played. And I think that's the biggest thing is like when you have a bunch of newcomers who have never played in this game before and don't really understand what this game means to the FAU fan base, to FAU alums, to pretty much everyone who is affiliated with FAU. You need guys who understand that. And there are guys on this roster who remember pulling off the helmet in 2022, is that correct? Was that the last time they played?
Yeah.
So I think they're going to get up for this game. Like maybe that's me being a little too believer and faithful, which I know I'm historically very much not that in terms of these predictions, but I think they get up, right? Like I think they have to get up.
They have to. I think they have to. Like, but it's weird because both teams are in a position where they have to, right? So
yeah, like it's always difficult when it's early in the season. Both teams are in a position where it feels like this game might be, whether it's just the decider of like how the rest of the season goes. But this is like really FAU's first test at adversity under Tom Herman. I thought last year you could get away with some of this is a rebuild. We need a year of our guys. This is the first test of who's going to show up and be leaders, because everyone always says it's when you get punched in the mouth when you truly know what you are as a football team. They've been punched in the mouth. They've been punched in the mouth repeatedly.
Yeah.
And so like I feel they get up and they play a good game. I think it will still be close because I think FIU has some talent that's going to make this a little bit more interesting, and they've got some playmakers who are going to be able to be a little bit more dynamic than 2 years ago. But
they also have the confidence right now, right?
Yeah, I mean they are coming into a game
where they have all the flash and the pitbull nonsense and everything else that goes along with that. They're feeling it. They're feeling swag. They're feeling all those things that winners feel right now. And I think we're feeling embarrassed. I think, so that says something too, I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's why I can't feel comfortable saying this is a 2-score, 3-score game, because one team's coming in with confidence, the other team is coming in with adversity. And the need to get up and go play this game like this is the biggest game of their lives, because to be fair, it might be.
It's tough, man. It's tough, man. And one Hail Mary pass knocks the wind out of you fast.
Yeah, so. One big play from either team can change this game entirely. And I think that may very well be the case of whoever gets that first big play, whether it's FAU on a big play, whether it's a sack and turnover, a momentum shifter. I feel like whoever gets that first play carries it to the win.
Yeah, I have a feeling the stadium's going to be more full than it was with Army. I think FIU is going to travel well, our way up the highway. Even though Army always brings, the armed services, the military institutions, they always bring fans. It's like America.
They've got a very national fan base.
Yeah, they have fans wherever they go. But FIU is an hour away, right? And they have a lot of hype right now surrounding them.
Yep.
It's gonna be a good atmosphere. Hopefully the boys could step up. We got a Saturday night game. Let's go.
6 p.m. FAU Stadium. It won't be 100 degrees outside. It'll be a nice, probably
95.
Cool. Yeah. It'll still be toasty, but at least the sun won't be beating down on you. Make sure to come out, enjoy football in paradise, and like everyone's been saying, potentially could be the biggest game of the season for the Owls. So we shall see what happens. Be there, like I said, 6 p.m. FAU Stadium. This has been Inside the Burrow for Kevin Fielder, Mike Birdman. Thank you to Jake Gibson for Paws Up Podcast. I'm Robbie LaStella. We'll see you next week, hopefully with a Shula Bowl trophy.